Hi guys, how you doing? Adam here. Seems like it's been a while since I've done a video, so I did someone pointing that out to me on Twitter, and also I had a little request to talk a little bit about bulking as well, just give some general information on bulking. Okay. I say that because I don't like the term. Alright, it is generally what we sort of use, but when you think of bulking, a lot of people misinterpret that to kind of eat what you want and just put on loads of fat. Okay? That's not what it's about at all. Long gone are the days, even in competitive bodybuilding, where they suddenly blow up by about 100 pounds in the off season and then diet down again. It doesn't work like that now. I mean, it never did, but we kind of understand now the best way to do it is to do it sensibly. Yes, you do add some fat if you're optimising your muscle gain, but there's no need to go overboard, okay? And we'll come a bit more into that in a moment. But firstly, what you do need to understand is that if you're going to try and add muscle, you are likely to put on some body fat, okay? Now, it's alright for for a lot of the fitness models will sort of say, oh, stay lean all year round, guys, stay lean all year round. It's alright for them to sort of say that and say, fuck bulking. Bulking, is for people who can't, stay in shape all year round. If you're like a 200-pound fitness model and you're making a living out of where your body is and you're happy with your body, then fine. Why would you want to bulk? Then obviously just stay like that. But what about the 17-year-old skinny kid? Who's just started out in training and hasn't got the muscular development yet. They can either spend years and years and years trying to stay lean whilst adding muscle with minimal amounts of success, or they can go through a phase of bulking. And of course, it's obviously beneficial. If you compete in things like that as well, you want to optimise your muscle gains in the off season. So yes, your mass gaining phase, off season, better terms than bulking, but you will add some fat, but we're not going to go overboard. Okay. Now, the fact is, you will reach your target weight quicker if you're happy to consume a surplus of carbohydrates, so calories, but mainly through carbohydrates, okay? The less body fat you're, in a way, the less body fat you're willing to add, the less likely you are to be successful, okay? The harder it's going to be for you to add muscle. What I'll do is just talk about the role that everything plays when you're adding muscle, and you'll kind of understand that a bit more. Firstly, though, when people come to me for a diet and they say they're struggling to add muscle, and I look at their diet, nearly all the time the most common issue that they're having with their diet is they're not consuming enough protein. So before we even need to look at increasing carbohydrates, look at the protein amount. Are you consuming enough protein in your diet? Again, there's no magic number. It can vary from sort of 1.2 to 2 grams or even more sometimes per pound of body weight to be optimal for that person to be gaining muscle. But that's the first thing to look at if you're struggling to add muscle, okay? Alright, secondly, your fats, you need to make sure you're still consuming your healthy fats, saturated fats as well in moderation, because fats are essential for your steroid hormone production, and you also need fats in your system to metabolize proteins as well effectively, so they're going to be important in building muscle. Then the defining factor is your carbohydrate intake. The role of carbs is essential when you're trying to build muscle. Carbs are your body's preferred energy source, okay? So you need to consume plenty of them so you've got plenty of energy. Provide yourself with energy for your workouts. If your body does not have the glucose available from carbohydrates, it's more likely to convert the proteins and fats that you're using into glucose. Now, we don't want that to happen because we want the proteins and fats that you consume to be used to build muscle. Okay, so carbs you need to consume enough to make sure your body's got the energy that it needs. Also, you need to make sure that your muscle cells are saturated with carbs. Not only does that make them look fuller, but carbs in the form of glucose, not only does it make them look fuller, but also it keeps it in in an energy surplus. Energy is constantly available, your body knows that, and it keeps it in an anabolic state, okay? Alright, so knowing the roles of everything, let's just take a little bit of time to look at sort of considerations for you to sort of plan your own diet. Now, I already touched on this at the start, okay? If you're going to try and maintain your condition when you're going through this phase of gaining muscle, you're going to struggle to add muscle, okay? So there's going to be a compromise somewhere. How much body fat are you willing to add? Okay, if you want to stay lean, you can gain muscle while you stay lean. You can add minimal amounts of body fat and you can gain muscle, but it's going to be a longer process. It's going to be slower. So if you want to look good all the time, if you want to have your abs all the time, it's going to take longer for you to add muscle. Alright, so basically what happens, you know, if glucose is going to be, there'll be times when sort of glucose is going to be scarce in your cells. Alright, it's going to down-regulate protein synthesis, because your body and your cells, they're going to understand that there's basically an energy deficit at times, so some of the protein is going to get converted to glucose. It's going to stop protein synthesis and start sort of conserving the fuel for energy instead. Okay, now, when another problem that people have is they'll start bulking and they'll do it for 2 weeks, and they'll see their abs start to go and they don't look as lean anymore. So what happens? What happens, guys? You start dieting again. It's like, well, you've only given it 2 weeks. I mean, you bulk for 2 weeks, you diet for 2 weeks, you bulk. What happens? You just end up going round in a circle. Okay? You don't sort of make any progress in either direction. So once you pick what you're going to do, stick to it and see it through. Alright? If your main goal is to add muscle, say you're competing in a show, or you're young, you're just getting into the industry or into the lifestyle and you want to add muscle, okay, that's your long-term goal, and you're not too worried if you add some fat in the process, you're kind of happy for that to happen, then in that case you just need to make sure that you have that excess amount of carbohydrates that are going to allow all the protein and fats you consume to be used for what they're needed for, and your carbohydrates are going to provide the energy, and you're going to keep your body in anabolic state all the way through, okay? So when you do that, there is somewhat of a caveat to that in the fact that you don't want to go too overboard, okay? I mean, I have some guys, I'll provide diets to some people, and like 200 grams of carbohydrates is enough. They'll have minimum amounts of body fat, and they're optimizing their muscle gains. Whereas some people, you need to go up higher. You need to go to, you know, so I've got some where you can put in sort of 700-800 grams of carbohydrates, and they're still only gaining like the same amount of body fat as the other person on 200 grams, but they're optimizing their muscle gain as well. Everybody's different, okay? So you need to find the amount that's going to work for you. Alright? As I say, if you're willing to sort of put on more body fat for a long-term benefit of muscle gain and optimizing that muscle gain, then yes, you will put on more body fat, but bear in mind the more that you put on, when it comes to dieting down again, the more muscle you're likely to lose. So it's not just a case of consuming such an excess that you know you're consuming enough, so you're going to go way over the top. Because the fact is, that way you're going to put on more fat. Firstly, you're not going to look good, but when you do come to diet down, it's going to be harder. You're going to have to diet more aggressively, okay? And in that process, you're going to lose a lot more muscle. Alright, so just as a rough sort of suggestion, when people come to me, if their body fat is above 15%, I generally advise not starting a bulking phase. Like, diet down first, get it to below 10%, and then start your bulking phase, because the fact is, if you start bulking at 15%, your body fat's going to be going over 20 by the time you finish bulking, if you see it through. When you diet down, you're going to lose a lot of that muscle that you've gained. Okay, you're actually far better off dieting down to below 10%, then starting your bulking phase, so when you diet down again, you're not going to lose as much muscle. Alright guys, I hope that sort of helps you out. If you have any questions or anything, hit me up on Facebook or Twitter. Also, make sure you check out my regular blogs at abfit.com. Cheers guys, see you later.